Today, Hammer's Chat put out a tweet saying, what do you want to talk about? What shall we discuss in our video? Somebody came back and they said, we'll tell you what to talk about, Hammer's Chat. Did David Moyes make an error not signing a striker? And that's what we're going to talk about, Gio.
It is. Before we do, that clip you just played, the intro, how many times do you shout United after bubbles?
Well, I don't. I'll tell you why. Because I genuinely, when I do it, I'm editing it. I do it on silent. So that clip, it just, the software just edits it.
No, not on video. At the ground, when you're singing bubbles at the ground, United at the end. There's 3 of them, but how many do you sing?
I think it's largely based on what everybody else is doing. I'm glad you said that though, because I thought you meant do I every time I just in a video. Every time, United. No, I tend not to. I tend to.
You should try. It might make you cheerier at the start of some videos, get you in the mood for it.
It's true. It's true. Do you know what? Tomorrow's video, if you're not going to be in it, I will start it myself with just a series of Uniteds. I know the set number's 3, Gio. So yeah. I think I might do 4 tomorrow. How many do you do?
1. I'm always on 1. I don't know why.
Because
2 goes too quiet, and you can sometimes get found out, can't you? Especially by the third one. There's that few people singing it. You get found out, and because I'm Scottish, my accent stands out from other people.
Yeah, you don't want it to come out as Aberdeen accidentally. Yeah.
No, exactly. I'm a One United. I'm a One United person.
You don't want to be left hanging, do you? That's for sure. Mind you, I think if you're drunk at the game, it doesn't matter. You might do 5 or 6. Someone just be, I just think, can you sit down now, please? Anyway, Davy Moyes. Actually, do you know what? I was going to say we can't do One Football app, actually, can we? Because we don't even have the animation here. We're not even going to ask you to download the One Football app today. There we go. Did Davy Moyes make a mistake?
I think so. And actually, yes, he did. I'm a bit biased because I felt that before the window shut, if that makes sense. So I'm a stubborn person, Gonzo. I am a stubborn person. I like to have an opinion and stick to it. But I like to think I'm also open to changing my mind as well. I'm not sure I'll ever change my mind on this because even last season, we did quite well with no striker. We brought in Lingard, we did quite well. There's probably 1 or 2 games I could go back to, though, and find games that we did not win and say, well, if we had a striker for that one, like Crystal Palace, we drew against Palace. However, had we had a striker on the bench, we could have done something. And I would say the same against Southampton. Antonio got sent off. He was poor before he got sent off. I would have subbed him if there was a decent alternative on the bench waiting to come on. So did we make a mistake? Yes. And people's argument will be, well, trust Moyes. Well, I can trust Moyes, but also think he made a mistake not getting a striker. It's possible to do both. But Moyes' reasons... Moyes has also said he wished he could have brought in a striker, so it's not just me that wants Moyes wanted one too. But he said they were either unavailable or he couldn't afford them. Well, there's evidence of at least 3 strikers in the Premier League now already that were available / affordable that he just either didn't know about or didn't want. It's a bit frustrating, actually, particularly after Antonio's red card. It makes it topical already. You hope to get a month into the season before you need to discuss this. But here we are, after the first game since the window's shut, strikerless.
I actually, you touched on something then. It drives me mad, this in Moyes we trust mantra. And I say that as a Moyes fanboy, right? I love the guy, right? I think he's.
You've got posters of Moyes on your bedroom wall.
Ceiling. I think he's the best manager we've had in years. I said it many times, and I do trust Moyes. But I hate this blanket black and white thing in Moyes. In Moyes we trust. David Moyes could sneak into a bank and empty a bank account. Hey, well, in Moyes we trust.
Do you know that argument, though? Do you know since then, Moyes has said that he wanted a striker? Does that mean those people that said in Moyes we trust now have to admit we should have got a striker because Moyes said so?
Oh, they're in a constant state. Well, the thing is, Moyes is a bit tricksy in his press conferences because he was saying at one point, I'm not sure we'll bring anyone in. Now we know why he was saying that, clearly. So they would probably have to switch. Say, well, it's fine. We're not bringing anyone in. We don't need to bring anyone in. But there you go. We bring a couple of players in, transfer deadline. Hey, Moyes we trust. No, look, I don't mind. I just think, sometimes you just need to be a little bit more nuanced, and when something is not quite right, like you said with a striker, then fair enough. And to back you up on that, you did say after the Crystal Palace game, because they had brought the fella in on loan whose name escapes me. and you said, look, they've actually no, it's Fulham against when we played against Crystal Palace. You said we should have bought a striker in on loan. You said, look at Fulham. They've just bought someone in on loan, and he was sort of creating. They'd bought a forward in Fulham. All right, ultimately, it didn't do the business for him. Can't remember the guy's name now, but yeah. I mean, so
Josh Maja.
That was it. Yeah, so you've been quite consistent in that. Talking about Palace, so Palace brought in Edson Edouard from Celtic, a player you would know an awful lot about. And they did that sneaky, Gio, because no one told me about it. I didn't know they'd signed him until I'm watching the highlights. What? Hold on. He's at Celtic. Hold on, we were linked with him. How did he move to Crystal Palace? I was really surprised at that one. But he's a good player, right?
Yeah, the thing is, I'll sort of allow Moyes not to have Edward because he costs 15, 60 million. Okay, so I'm going to assume when Moyes says they cost too much, what I mean is he costs anything. We have nothing for a striker. So I'm sort of allowing him to, okay, fine, you don't have money for a striker. I do believe there's alternatives out there. I think there's some proof in the Premier League that actually there were players out there with a lower budget than that. So it's a substantial outlay, 60 million, but I think he's a damn good striker for 60 million. All this hype about Ronaldo. Oh, I seen earlier, Ronaldo scored more goals in the Premier League than Arsenal. Edward scored more goals in the Premier League than Arsenal. He played 10 minutes. But the one thing that frustrates me with Moyes the most is when he said that the strikers are unavailable, or it's the word unavailable or something like that. Frustrates me because I don't believe anyone is unavailable, especially in a window. We've just seen Ronaldo and Messi move clubs. Any striker, any player in football can move at any point. It's a case of how much and not will.
Well, I totally accept what you're saying. I also am a big advocate for loans. I don't think, as you know, I don't think it's a dirty word. I think some have had the best deals are loans. So I don't think that's, if you haven't got money, I would agree. I don't think that's reason not to buy somebody. Do you think, though, and this is weird because Moyes has shown the ability to make loans, but arguably the most successful loan in recent times in the Premier League was Jesse Lingard. Show me another player who's coming on loan and had an impact like that. There ain't many, right? So he has the capacity to do loans. Do you wonder, though, with David Moyes, that on this striker situation, that he was almost too narrow-minded, too focused on buying a striker, and almost, okay, if we can't buy a striker, then we do nothing. Do you think that might be part of it? Because clearly there were options.
I agree on that. I do wonder if he feels like he's got his fingers burnt with Jesse Lingard, because he was such a big success and didn't get him back. There is an element as a manager that you must think, bloody hell, I need that guy back in my team here. What am I going to do next season? And he couldn't get him back. And he waited all transfer window, we assume, and why we signed Vlasic quite late is he waited on the Jesse Lingard situation. He wanted Jesse back. And I think he's probably just trying to avoid a similar situation again next summer. That if we were, hypothetically, we got a striker on a loan, he was a good success. Let's actually, one prime example, Broja at Southampton on loan from Chelsea. Southampton ain't going to get to buy him, okay? Chelsea rate him highly.
That was the guy you were talking about.
Yeah, the guy that came on, that hit the post.
The brilliant guy that came on. That was the Chelsea one.
Yes.
Right. You mentioned him in the preview.
Yes, the one that sent Ogbonna back to Italy, then wrapped it round Dawson and whacked it off the post. Yeah, that's him. He's on loan from Chelsea. So this whole there's no players a bit of rubbish. He was available on loan from Chelsea. Southampton went and got him. And if anything, it would have been easier to get him on loan at West Ham. Southampton have got about 4 different strikers. We had one. He would get arguably in the summer. Southampton and West Ham went to Chelsea with the proposals. You'd imagine he would get more game time at West Ham going forward because Southampton have splashed some money on Armstrong. They've got Che Adams. They've Shane Long in there. They play like some Nathan Taylor up front. So there's got a competition up front. He'd have none here. But anyway, Broja went on loan to Southampton. Imagine we got him on loan and actually he turns out to be quite good. He scores 10 goals for us. Next summer, we're like, oh, can we buy him? And Chelsea said, no, piss off. They do what you've done with Jesse Lingard. You're in the same situation, aren't you? It's not a good one. So I wonder if Moyes is just trying to avoid relying on a player that won't be a West Ham player, because both our loans this season, with Ariola and Kral, we can buy them next summer without negotiating.
I think, I think that's a fair point. I think there's something more obvious than that, actually, though. I don't know. We're both just guessing. I think we didn't know about him.
Yeah, I think that too. I don't think we know about Broja.
But this is what, hopefully, when Rob Newman comes in, I'm not saying Rob Newman knows about Broja, but Rob Newman knows about somebody. And I do wonder if there is an element of that actually there's a massive hole in our knowledge base of players. And whilst David Moyes might have an encyclopedic knowledge of Youssef En-Nesyri, he might be able to tell you what he had for breakfast last Thursday, but actually he might have massive holes in his knowledge in terms of who's doing well in the under-23s at the various clubs there. And quite possibly, we will know. I'm pretty sure that this kid played against one of our under-23 teams or something like that. Or
he was on loan. He was on loan last season to Vitesse over in the Netherlands, where he did well. He did well.
Which is their sister club that they loan players out to, isn't it? Yeah, okay. I mean, you would imagine everybody would have scouts there, right? I mean, you just would. I don't mean for every game, but you would know that that's Chelsea's feeder club, and you would probably know that there'd be loan signings to be had out there. I know what things are like, and I mean, I know what niche subjects are like. Everybody knows everybody, and everybody knows about everything. And if you're in football, if football is your bread and butter, and you're in coaching, and you're in youth football, and you're in that sort of thing, and you're in scouting, there'd be very, very little that you don't know about. It goes back to Arsene Wenger used to send out loads of scouts everywhere, and it was a story from one of his scouts. Can't remember who it was, but anyway, scout went out to France for Arsenal, saw a player in the Toulon tournament or Toulouse tournament, whatever it is, under 20 tournament. Players playing really well in midfield. The guy comes back to Arsene Wenger and says, I've spotted a player. And it was the scout telling the story. It was on TalkSport. Scout telling the story. He said, I went back to Arsene Wenger. I turned around. I said, I've seen this player. His name is whatever his name is. He was playing central midfield. He was playing for their really, really good. Apparently, Arsene Wenger turned around to him and said, yeah, playing in midfield in that one. Usually plays at right back. Unfortunately, we might have some. He said, he's at this club. That club don't own him. He's actually a different club. Oh, by the way, he's not French. He is actually Senegalese. I think we might have a problem with a work permit. He just had this encyclopedic knowledge, apparently, Arsene Wenger. And the scout said, there's almost no need for me. You got the impression that Arsene knew about every young player at that bloody tournament. And you get the idea that I don't think David Moyes has got that. So I think that's a little bit of a hindrance. That's fine. Know where you're weak. Get it sorted. I think possibly what Rob Newman's done come in. But there was one other one, Rondon as well, Gio.
Yeah, well, Moyes does know about Rondon. Everyone knows about Rondon. It was made literally knowing 2 or 3 days before the window shut that Rondon was available on loan. Everybody knew about it. We've done transfer rumour shows discussing, well, we've been sporadically linked to Rondon. Whether we want him or not, it's a different factor. But we've been linked to him. And do I think we would have got him ahead of Everton? No, I don't. I think Rafa Benitez is key to this transfer. But sometimes when you do videos and you say, I think we should have got a striker in, you will get at least one comment going, who? Give me an example of one player we could have. And you think, well, I don't know. It's not my job. There's people employed to find these players. There's someone employed at the clubs to find Broja, to find Rondon, to find Edouard. It's someone's job Monday to Friday to look through the analytics, to go through scouting and say to them, boys, here's a list of players that you can get on your budget of £0. Someone's job to do that. It's not mine. Well, actually, to that one person that would comment, Broja from Chelsea, he's available. He was available. We didn't get him. So it's just frustrating. And I'm hoping that Rob Newman can sort that a little bit. I do wonder if there's an element of the January transfer window with David Moyes. I wonder if he has got one eye on that, because we're going to need to get someone in to replace Saïd Benrahma, possibly on loan. Now, the loans we have made of Kral and Areola means we still have our 2 domestic loans available, which is crucial when you're trying to scout the loan market. Because I'd imagine in the Premier League, I'd imagine, just guessing, 30-40% of loans are perhaps domestic, but in terms of permanent transfers, I wouldn't be surprised if that percentage was a lot less. I would expect the loan domestic transfers to be higher than the permanent ones. Does that make sense?
It does, yes, it does.
So therefore, I think you need your domestic loan space to go, because we got caught with that last year. We had Dawson, Benrahma, we wanted Lingard on loan. We thought, well, what we're going to do? We're going to have to sort one of these 2 out now. We ended up having to pay Brentford 20 million early. so we could get Jesse Lingard on loan. So while Lingard cost £1.5 million, well, he did, yeah. But he also cost us 20 million to Brentford 6 months early.
Yeah.
We've avoided that scenario now. So when Moyes does go into the loan market in January, which I expect him to with the Benrahma thing, he can bring in 2 domestic players. I think that's valuable because there might be other clubs around us that have used up at least one space. And you never know. Maybe Rob Newman will come in and say, I can get Liam Delap down for the second half of the season. I know the under-23s at Man City, these 5 players, they're not out on loan in a minute. They will do a job for West Ham. Let's get a couple of them down. I don't know. We're speculating. But your question is, did Moyes make an error not getting a striker? 100%. You won't convince me otherwise. Man United's already proof that we should have had a striker in.
Absolutely right. I think that's about it. We've got a video coming up later. We've already just recorded it, haven't we? To build up to the European game, so that will be up on the main channel this evening.
Yes,
absolutely. Okay, well, keep your eyes peeled for that. We'll say goodbye and a fond farewell to you now, Gio. Thank you very much for joining me.
Cheers.
And thank you, random Twitter people, for supplying the subject matter for today's video.